Toys are meant to bring joy, but some carry shadows darker than their painted smiles, shadows that even exorcisms couldn't erase. The story of Letta the Doll begins in the shadows of a forgotten Australian town, where secrets linger in the peeling paint and overgrown gardens. Locals whispered of strange happenings long before anyone dared enter the crumbling house on the edge of Wagga Wagga. Some said the place was cursed. Others claimed to see lights flickering in the windows when the building should have been empty. In the 1970s, a man named Kerry Walton made a discovery that would change his life forever. He was searching for antiques, but what he found was something far older and far more disturbing than he could have imagined. Walton stumbled across a large, human-sized puppet buried under a porch. Its limbs were twisted, its face frozen in a silent scream. It had glass eyes, a painted face with deep lines, and real human hair stitched to its scalp. Some say the hair was taken from a child who died tragically, binding the spirit to the puppet forever. Walton took it home, unaware that the doll would come to be known as Letta Me Out, one of the most infamous haunted dolls in the world. The name itself came from the chilling feeling that the doll wanted to be released, Letta Me Out. Almost immediately, strange things began to happen. Family members reported hearing footsteps at night, as if someone was walking around the house. Doors creaked open on their own, and cold drafts swept through rooms where the doll was kept. Objects shifted when no one was nearby. The family dog refused to be in the same room as the doll, growling and snarling at it before running away in fear. Walton noticed scratches appearing on the floors where Letta was kept, as though it had moved on its own during the night. Sometimes the doll would be found in a different position than where it was left, its head turned toward the door as if waiting for someone to enter. Local psychic mediums who examined the doll claimed it contained the spirit of a child who had drowned centuries ago. Others suggested it was far older, perhaps tied to Romani culture and bound with dark ritual practices. Some legends say the doll was created as a vessel to trap a restless soul, using forbidden rites lost to time. Walton himself grew convinced the doll was alive in some sense, describing how its expression seemed to change depending on who looked at it. He invited friends and neighbors to see Letta. Some laughed, until they saw the doll's eyes glint in the candlelight or felt a sudden chill in the air. Over the years, Walton took Letta to public exhibitions and paranormal shows, where countless people reported feelings of dizziness, nausea, or even fainting in its presence. Some claimed to see its eyes follow them across the room. Exorcisms were attempted to release whatever was inside Letta, but each failed, with psychics insisting the spirit refused to leave. One medium described a force so strong it knocked her backward during a ritual. Old newspaper clippings chronicled the doll's journey, with headlines warning of its curse. Local radio hosts interviewed witnesses who described nightmares, sudden illnesses, and even car accidents after encountering Letta. One woman claimed her camera malfunctioned every time she tried to photograph the doll. Another said she heard a child's voice whispering her name in the dark. Even skeptics left shaken. A local police officer, after spending a night with Letta for a charity event, refused to speak of what he saw, only that he would never return. Today, Walton still owns the doll, keeping it secured in his home, though he admits it unnerves him daily. He says he sometimes hears Letta's footsteps at night and locks the doll away when storms roll in. Letta has become an icon in the paranormal world. Proof, some say, that not every toy is harmless, and some are vessels for restless souls. Would you dare keep Letta the doll in your house, or would you bury it again where it was found? Drop your answer in the comments below. In the heart of British Columbia, the Quesnel Museum holds a secret behind glass, a doll named Mandy, whose legend chills even the most skeptical visitor. At first glance, Mandy the doll looks like a fragile antique, a cracked porcelain face, delicate hands, and a faded dress from another era. But her eyes, dark, hollow, and unblinking, seem to follow you wherever you go. Mandy's origins are shrouded in mystery. Some say she was crafted in England over a century ago, her porcelain fired in a kiln that once stood where a child perished in a tragic fire. But in the mid-1990s, when she was donated to the Quesnel Museum in British Columbia, the woman who brought Mandy to the museum arrived pale and exhausted, clutching the doll as if eager to be rid of her. She confessed to sleepless nights, plagued by the sound of a child sobbing echoing from her basement. The museum staff dismissed her fears until the disturbances began. Lights flickered, doors creaked open, and the air grew inexplicably cold around Mandy's case. Staff began to hear faint weeping at night, and sometimes the sound of tiny footsteps scurrying across the floor when the museum was empty. One morning, Mandy was found sitting upright, her head turned toward the door, though no one had touched her. The security cameras, meant to record overnight, showed only static and flickering shadows. Employees began to lose personal items, keys, lunchboxes, even photographs, only to find them days later in strange places, as if Mandy herself had hidden them. One curator reported seeing Mandy's eyes blink, just once, but enough to send her fleeing from the room, heart pounding. Visitors, too, felt Mandy's presence. Some described a wave of sadness or dread as they approached her case, while others felt a cold hand brush their arm. Cameras aimed at Mandy often malfunctioned, their batteries draining in minutes, and photographs developed with strange blurs or ghostly shapes. Most unsettling, Mandy seemed to affect electronics. Cameras malfunctioned when pointed at her. One night, the museum's alarm blared without cause. Security found nothing except Mandy, now facing a different direction, her cracked lips parted in a faint, unsettling smile. Word spread through the town. Locals whispered that Mandy's spirit was restless, and some refused to enter the museum at all. Paranormal investigators arrived, armed with EMF meters and cameras. They recorded unexplained cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, and faint voices whispering on their audio equipment. One investigator claimed to see a child's reflection in the glass, standing behind Mandy, only to find the room empty when he turned. The museum called in a priest to bless the building. During the ritual, the lights flickered violently, and a glass display case shattered, yet Mandy remained untouched. Paranormal investigators brought in to examine Mandy concluded that the doll was harboring the spirit of a child, possibly one who died tragically, perhaps even suffocated, since Mandy was originally discovered sealed inside a barn cellar. The museum director decided to place Mandy in a reinforced glass case, surrounded by protective charms and warning signs. Exorcism attempts to cleanse her met with mixed results. The disturbances quieted temporarily, but always returned. Still, Mandy's legend grew. Local children dared each other to touch the glass, and some claimed to have nightmares for weeks after visiting. The museum eventually embraced Mandy's reputation, placing her on permanent display where she remains a star attraction. Some visitors leave offerings, flowers, coins, even handwritten notes, hoping to appease whatever spirit lingers within the doll. Museum workers admit they greet Mandy each morning and say goodnight before leaving, not out of duty, but out of fear, afraid of what might happen if they ignore her. Mandy has become more than a doll. She is a legend, a warning, and a mystery that endures. Some say her spirit is still searching for peace, while others believe she is a vessel for something far darker. If you visited the museum, would you take a photo of Mandy, or would you avoid her display completely? Share your choice in the comments below. In the heart of Japan, where ancient traditions linger and spirits are said to walk among the living, there stands a temple older than memory. Its wooden beams creak with the weight of centuries, and its gardens are veiled in perpetual mist. Within these sacred walls, monks have long guarded objects believed to house restless souls, dolls, masks, and talismans, each with a story whispered through generations. Among them is the Ayako doll, a wooden puppet, carved with exquisite detail, its painted eyes forever wide with silent terror. Local legend claims it was created by a grieving father, desperate to preserve the spirit of his lost daughter. The doll was placed on the temple altar, surrounded by offerings of rice, incense, and folded paper cranes. For years, it was treated as a sacred object, believed to bring protection and comfort to the grieving. But as time passed, strange occurrences began to trouble the monks. At night, the sound of tiny footsteps echoed through the corridors. Candles flickered and went out, and the air grew icy cold around the doll. Some monks reported waking to find the doll's head turned, its gaze fixed on the door, as if waiting for someone to enter. Others claimed to hear faint weeping, or the soft rustle of silk kimono sleeves brushing the tatami floor. The abbot, a man of deep faith, dismissed these tales as superstition, until he too saw the doll's lips twitch in the candlelight, as if struggling to speak. Word spread through the village. Locals began to avoid the temple at night, whispering that Ayako's spirit had become restless, longing for release or revenge. Soon the disturbances escalated. Sacred scrolls were found torn, and offerings left for the doll were scattered across the floor. One monk fell gravely ill after spending a night in the same room as the puppet. The temple elders consulted a local onmyoji, a practitioner of ancient Japanese exorcism rites. He arrived with bells, salt, and sacred paper charms, determined to cleanse the doll of its curse. The ritual began at midnight. As the onmyoji chanted, the wind howled through the temple, and the doll's wooden limbs began to tremble. Witnesses swore they heard a child's voice crying out, begging to be set free. Suddenly, the candles were snuffed out, plunging the room into darkness. When the lights returned, the onmyoji was found collapsed, his face pale with terror. He refused to speak of what he had seen. The monks tried to destroy the doll, but every attempt failed. Fires set to its wooden body would not burn, and when they tried to bury it, the earth itself seemed to reject the puppet, pushing it back to the surface by morning. Desperate, the monks sealed Ayako inside a lacquered box, binding it with red and white cords and covering it with protective ofuda, sacred talismans meant to ward off evil. Even so, the disturbances never fully ceased. Visitors to the temple sometimes report feeling watched or sense a cold hand brush their shoulder as they pass the sealed box. Some claim to see fleeting reflections of a little girl in the polished wood, her eyes pleading for release. Others hear soft singing, echoing through the empty halls at dusk. Over the years, the legend of the Ayako doll has grown. Some believe the spirit inside is not that of a child, but a vengeful yokai, a supernatural entity drawn to sorrow and loss. Paranormal investigators have visited the temple, armed with cameras and EMF meters. Their equipment often malfunctions, batteries draining in seconds, and photographs developing with strange, ghostly blurs. One investigator claimed to see the box tremble on its own, while another fainted after hearing a voice whisper her name in flawless Japanese. Despite the fear, the monks continue their rituals, chanting sutras and renewing the protective wards each month. They believe that as long as the doll remains sealed and honored, its power can be contained. Yet some nights, the sound of weeping drifts from the shrine, and the scent of incense grows sharp and bitter. The villagers leave offerings at the temple gate, flowers, sweets, and tiny dolls, hoping to appease whatever lingers within. The Ayako doll remains hidden, its lacquered prison watched over by generations of monks. Some say the spirit inside waits for the day someone brave or foolish enough will set it free. In Japan, dolls are more than playthings. They are vessels, bridges between the living and the dead. The Ayako doll is a warning. Some spirits are not meant to be disturbed. If you found yourself alone in that mist-shrouded temple, would you dare approach the sealed box? Or would you turn and flee into the night heart-pounding? Let us know in the comments below. Letta, Mandy, Ayako, 3 puppets meant for play or prayer, now feared as vessels for spirits that refuse to rest. Not even exorcisms could silence them. Tell us, which doll unsettled you the most, and would you dare face it in person? We'll be watching to see who's brave enough to answer in the comments below. If these haunted dolls kept you watching, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and add your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes the thing staring back at you from the shelf is not just a toy.